Okay. Hi, everyone. Episode 2. And this time, I have he's not a jelly cat, but he is an octopus. And he is one of those, you've probably seen them. They're those octopi, that can flip inside out. So he has two moods. He has angry and happy. Pretty cool. But he's happy today because we're filming. And so this is who's joining me for my episode. Say hi, Oscar. Very good. Okay, so obviously I watched back my episode 1 and some things that I learned. One, I'm not gonna slouch. And if this is slouching, then I guess I'm out of options. There's only so many ways I can sit on my couch to record this. Second thing that I learned was I felt like there were some questions that I had during the episode. And so I went ahead and made sure to look up and answer those questions. So the first thing was we talked about how I received a flat out no from a San Diego model management company. Or just management? Is it a company? I guess they're technically companies. So I went ahead and I actually have all my old emails from my old email address because when it was closing, a lot of it was related to work and school and things like that. And I didn't want it just like deleted forever. So I kept them all, 24,000 emails. And I actually found my original emails from Wilhelmina, from these agencies, from my submissions. It was crazy. So, also, third thing, I'm filming in wide now. Not that that pertains to anyone who's just listening and not watching, but I feel like it looks better wide. Plus, I do have a cute apartment. So if you are watching, I hope you like it. Okay, so yeah. So the two things that I wasn't totally sure on. One, the agency that gave me a rejection in San Diego was called No Ties Management. They do still exist. I looked them up today. They have kind of a small roster, obviously, because they're a local agency. And you're probably wondering, how would that have worked if, one, I were to sign today, or, what that would have looked like now? I forgot to check the time. Classic. I thought of everything but that. Okay, so we'll just say I've been filming for like 3 minutes, right? I don't know. So anyway, yeah, so San Diego modeling agency is called No Ties, and they do still exist. And if I were to like submit today, right, I'm already signed to Wilhelmina. What we're going to talk about later today is the concept of a mother agency and like what that means and whether or not I had one when I first signed. And then the other thing that I wasn't sure on was how long in between my submission and the day they emailed me back. It was about 10 days. No, a week. I think I submitted on February 27th or 28th. And let's see, I got the email on March 7th from the agent at Wilhelmina asking about my online submission. So, yep. So it was about a week. So I would say, especially nowadays with the amount of volume they're getting on the website from those submissions, maybe give it 2 weeks if you submit online, but still a perfectly viable way of submitting yourself if you want to model. Okay, so there are some other things that I want to talk about in this episode. I want to talk about what it was like first starting out. Was it all rainbows and sunshine? No, it was not rainbows and sunshine. And we're going to be very transparent about that. And then obviously we'll talk about what a mother agent is. And I'll probably start with that since that's less long-winded. So what is a mother agent? When I walked in for that first meeting at Wilhelmina, they asked me if I had a mother agent. A mother agent is somebody that you hire. It could be one person, it could be an agency, just an entity who is in charge of your placements. Placements are where you're signed. So I didn't have a mother agent. Lots of people have mother agents. You don't have to have one. It's basically like getting an agent to find you an agent. And the kicker is sometimes agencies don't love when you come into the picture with a mother agent. If you're particularly fantastic, if you have a great look, if you've already been working, etc., then they don't care if you have a mother agent. It is extremely typical because it's hard to scout. You can't just wander the streets of New York for hours and hours and hours trying to like find women to sign. You have to, pounding the pavement takes forever. So it's easier to go through TikTok, go through Instagram Reels, to go through online submissions that are literally hand delivered to you, right? Or to check with people in your network that are mother agents and notable ones or mother agencies, and see if they have any women that are of interest to you, or men. But I'm not a man, so it's hard for me to like speak to that side, but we'll talk about that eventually. Male models. Oh goodness. Okay, so your mother agent. Also, excuse me, I think I have a bit of a vocal issue at the moment because I did cook a steak in my 200 square foot apartment 2 days in a row, and I believe I smoked myself out. So we're just gonna hang in there. So whether or not you come in with a mother agent, it can be a little off-putting for agencies because they do have to pay that agent out of every single job you book. It's like a perpetual finder's fee. It's usually 10% of the gig. Now, you don't have to pay that. You do the gig, and usually 20% of your income, whether you have a mother agent or not, goes to your agency. So when the agency takes you on, 10% now will take it out of your job. The other 10% goes to your mother agent. But again, depending on how much work you're booking and, whether they think that you're worth the investment, etc., 10 to 20% is not really going to make a difference for the agency, especially a big one like Wilhelmina, because, they have a billion girls and they're all working, or most of them are working, which is another thing we'll talk about in the continuation of the story from episode 1. So let's see here. Yeah, a mother agent is basically the person that discovers you and helps you get placements. Now, when I signed, I made Wilhelmina my mother agent, which is also a good thing to do because a big agency is going to have lots of connections. They're going to be able to place you wherever. They don't just always stick to their same agency, and they can give you advice on placements in general. So my agents have placed me with agencies in other countries to help get me work in Europe and elsewhere. So that's the job of the mother agent. Now, if I were to have signed in San Diego, it could have presented a problem because agencies operate in, what would I call it? Like a geographical model moment, a geographical, I don't know what you would call it. They have their own markets based on geography. So Wilhelmina, LA, okay, is in charge of all of California bookings pretty much. Had I been signed with no ties in San Diego, it might have screwed me because they might have a lot of overlap in that market, because I can't imagine there's many clients specifically to San Diego other than the one I can think of off the top of my head right now is Viore. I think that's how you say that. Sorry. Is in Escondido, I think. But other than that, I mean, they're probably sharing a lot of the same clients. So they're mostly probably in competition. And no one on the roster for No Ties that I saw when I looked it up today, I didn't recognize any faces that were also signed to Wilhelmina, LA. They could be signed to LA agencies, but I doubt it. I would say it's probably too much of an overlap that you wouldn't need to sign in both. And obviously it's probably preferred that you sign with Wilhelmina because their client base is a lot larger. They're a bigger agency, makes sense. Same thing with there's agencies in Seattle, there's agencies in Portland, there's agencies in San Francisco, smaller boutique places. And again, they share a lot of the same clientele as the LA agencies. So it's harder for them to kind of carve out a space in the market. So if you are applying locally, keep that in mind. You might want to stick to a bigger city and just, if they do take you on, have them fly you out, etc. And then, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say on what a mother agent does and why, geographically it can be difficult. That's why you have Wilhelmina LA and then Wilhelmina New York. New York will handle most of the East Coast bookings. And then you have Wilhelmina London, which handles a lot of the European bookings, et cetera, right? So they have their own places, which is why you can sign with Wilhelmina LA and you might not necessarily sign with Wilhelmina New York. You might sign with Next or Elite or Ford or wherever, because they're in separate geographical areas and have their own clients. And bigger agencies also are in charge of clients that are in other cities. So LA doesn't just get bookings in LA. LA gets bookings definitely Viore because I've cast for them. So San Diego, LA, San Francisco, Portland, Wisconsin, Wyoming, Utah, Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, definitely just pretty much anywhere on the West. And then New York, obviously, East Coast. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the clock and we're going to talk about what happened after I signed. So I signed the contract. That's day one. And then I go home. And the email correspondence, which it's nice that I looked it up recently because it's like fresh in my memory now. I read all these like beginning emails, just crazy. You start immediately like they need to test you. I went in with zero experience. You do not need experience to be a model, which in my opinion it's perfectly fine, but you need to be properly developed and they will help you. They will set you up with test shoots. Sometimes those are paid, sometimes they're not. It's the same thing as trying to put a reel together if you're an actor. There's a lot of overlap, but for the most part, photographers, especially ones that maybe are really talented but don't have a full roster going yet, they are really eager to shoot with girls from these bigger agencies for free because it helps their portfolio as well. So, you kind of all collaborate, and my earliest test shoots were, for the most part, free. Maybe I'd pay like a makeup artist and a hair artist, but other than that, for the most part, it was free. Now, almost all my test shoots are paid. And my most expensive test shoot was $1,700. So, was it worth it? Yeah, it was very worth it, but it's not cheap. It is not cheap. I'm honestly not 100% sure whether or not the free test shoot thing, it's been a while since I've done a free test shoot. They're around, but they're a lot rarer, which I'm not too mad about because I also feel like, I should pay them for their services. That feels like an ethical thing to do. But at the same time, I do feel like, especially because stylists and, they're using their products, their time, they're going out and getting clothes. Like, yes, please let me pay you a couple $100. But at the same time, I do feel like I would love to see more frequent industry-wise shoots, for free. I think that would be more fun. Just getting more of a collaborative, sense of other things. But at the same time, I'm very happy to pay people. It's rough out there, especially if the work is phenomenal. Okay, so they started testing me. The very first test I did was actually with my agent, just to get myself a picture on the website. A lot of girls go in with professional pictures that they've already taken, that if the agency likes them, they'll just use that and throw that up day one. Or maybe girls have some experience, they have a mother agent, they've done some test shoots already, they'll put that up. But I came in cold. I had not a single shoot, like really nothing other than what I submitted to be signed. And so they did a little shoot with me, and that was the first day that I realized, okay, this is not a nothing sport. This takes skill. I went outside with my agent. It was the second day I had met him. I had gone home. I think I'd spent like a couple weeks at home and then came back up, and we went outside to take some pictures. And I remember posing in front of him, and he was like, "No, no, 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 no. What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm posing for the camera." And he was like, "You're not thinking about anything. You are completely dark behind your eyes, like no one's home. I need you to think about something. I literally anything, just think about something and be really present with me in front of the camera." And I was like, "Okay." And so then that's when I realized that there was a totally active process behind modeling, behind taking pictures, behind being in front of a camera that I think is hardly ever mentioned to girls, especially when they're new in modeling. And I can tell. I can tell when they're green and when they lack that presence. Maybe they're thinking not even about something, but if they're even worse, if they're not thinking about nothing, but they're thinking about, oh, do I look good? Do I, you can sense that too in the picture. And you have to be, I mean, it sounds cliche, but you have to be confident, you have to be present, and you have to, you have to be alive on camera. Even though it's a still image, you still have to be with your camera, having a relationship with it. It's bizarre. It's such an active process. And so I did that, and he took some pictures and he showed them to me, and he was like, "See what a difference." And I will never, ever, ever forget that first picture that was on the website. I couldn't believe what I was capable of. That was really special. That was really, really special. And then I started doing test shoots. And what's great about being new and young in development, and you're meeting these photographers and people for the first time, you're getting your feet wet, it's exciting, it's fun, it's a little scary, but what I love about the industry are the photographers, the makeup artists, the hair artists, the stylists. Like, we are such a unit. We have to function in tandem. I got to my first test shoots and my grandpa would drive me every time all the way to LA. Insane. I can't believe it. What a wonderful man. I couldn't believe just like how much went into, everyone had to be so on all the time. Hair is waiting on standby to like move something out of the picture if something's off. Makeup is making sure that your mascara is not dripping, that your lip is not drooping or anything, it's touched up, you don't look dry, you don't look too shiny. Photography obviously has got you on angles. Hey, can you move your arm a little bit? Can you create a window? Can you alter this way? Can you change this up? And then styling is looking for, okay, is this button out of place? Is that buttoned? Is this off? Is the collar pop by accident? Everyone's got to be super vigilant the entire time to make sure that you maximize the product. When you go back to that computer and your day is done, everybody's day is done, and the photographer is going through those selects, that you have exactly what you need out of that shoot, or whatever the client needs out of that shoot, as much of it as possible. You don't want the perfect shot ruined by a popped collar or something off with the makeup or whatever, because retouching can only do so much and no one is that good. So it was really fascinating to see how things worked and to have these test shoots. And I went in for some castings as well, whenever I had a break, especially during summer, because I got signed in March. Actually, shit, we passed the 10-year anniversary. Oh my God. Crazy. 10 years. Wow. And I got signed in March, and then, I started really, I was testing in April, May, and then I graduated. And, starting in May, June, July, August, before college, I was driving up to LA when I had a casting, doing test shoots, the whole nine. And the first things I felt like I started to worry. Now, I knew going into it that you had to be skinny. And this is where I want to talk about, why did I call the podcast the Misfit Model Podcast? Why did I call it that? I'm going to check the time. Hold up. Okay. We're doing great, babe. The Misfit Model Podcast. Not the model podcast, not being a model, not ex model, not any of that. Misfit Model Podcast. Because I did not quite fit in when I first signed. And I would argue that I still technically don't, even though I work full time. It's we'll talk about that. Probably in episode 3 we'll get into, what my title is, what that means. But my first concerns were like, I knew I had to be skinny, and I was skinny. However, I didn't know how skinny. And I feel like this is probably one of the most talked about and yet convoluted topics of the modeling world, is like, what does that mean? Are there rules? Are there stipulations? Like, what does that mean? So they take my measurements day 1 when I sign the contract. Day 2, day 3, day 4, if I come into the agency, I have a casting, whatever, I came to visit, I came to take digitals, etc. The first time I come in, my agent took my measurements and he said, I'm going to need you to tone up. And I was like, what does that mean? And he was like, I was like, do you mean lose weight? And he goes, just tone up. And I'm like, again, not really sure what that's implying. What does that mean? Am I not skinny enough? Like, do you want me to be more muscular? It's very, very, very vague. And I started to learn that there were rules, that the industry standard for, it's not weight, it's not height, it's not face, head, shoe, nothing. It is basically all down to your hip measurement. They can make waists work, they can make, whatever bra size you are work, but your hip was the kicker. When I first signed, I believe a 36-inch hip. Industry standard for straight size is what we call the thin girl modeling, is a 35-inch hip. That's an inch difference. They wanted me to tone up to, be the 35-inch hip so that I could get any job I could possibly think of getting, because that was what all the sizing was based on. And in 2016, it is not like how it was now. 2016, there was barely any size diversity at all. I don't even think Ashley Graham was really, pounding the pavement yet. Like, it was different. Lane Bryant, Torrid, those were pretty much your only curve options. And everything else was, if you're not a 35-inch hip, you're not going to work. It's going to be really difficult. But I was still a unanimous yes. So clearly they liked my look, but that was the one thing. They were like, you're just slightly, it's not going to work. And it was mentally really scary. It was really scary because I have this person telling me, that I need to lose weight in basically one area, which isn't possible. You lose weight across your body in percentages. And I just didn't understand. I didn't know what to do. I was so in the dark. So I did get a personal trainer and I tried to do that. And it taught me how to work out, which is a great lifetime skill. And I know how to lift weights and everything, but I just don't think I was ever going to get down to a 35-inch hip. Like, I was small, super small. I was a 4. So getting down to a 2, like that minor difference, I just don't know if it would have ever happened. But, I was trying to work out and figure it out, and it was just tough. And then I went to a casting at the agency for denim I can't remember the company. And I think it was just like a smaller, like boutique, like denim retailer. Watch, I say that now, and it'll probably have been like something that was major and like is major now, but it just didn't exist to that scale then. But anyway, I do the casting at the agency. He gives me 2 pairs of jeans to try on. And everyone's really nice too. Like my agent did not say that to me with malice. You know, he wasn't evil. It's just how it worked. And do I think that they intended to like they're not monsters. No, like this is what that industry was. They were agents. I had other agents that I will happily slam that are gone completely, were fired and completely let go. But next episode, I do think that there was a degree of immaturity then, or closed-mindedness then, because they didn't see the potential of size diversity in marketing. And do I even think it's really the agency's fault? No. I put that fully on the clients. Well, not fully, you know, but these clients, man, I mean, so many to this day are really dying on the hill of we want one type of person. And that is icky. That's icky. But we'll talk about that. So he tells me that I do my best. It's just not working. And, you know, I keep coming in and they keep asking me, you know, how's it going with the measurements thing? And, you know, I'm like, it's kind of stalled. Like, I'm 18. I'm about as small as I'll ever be because I'm still a baby. And, like, you know, it was tough. I was mentally pretty decked. And then I do this casting and I try on this pair of jeans. And, I mean, we're talking, like, real denim, not this stretch denim that you can get everywhere now, like actual like rigid denim. And I just couldn't get them up over my hips. I couldn't do it. And it was heartbreaking. Like I you know, took them off and put my clothes on and I was like, hey, I'm sorry, like these just don't fit. And I can't imagine how many other girls, especially, I hope tons of models watch this, that went through that. You're so not alone. And it's not over for you. And it really broke my heart, like, especially like thinking about it now and looking back on it, like it felt humiliating to go through that like I wasn't the right size. And instead of seeing and meeting Hannah and seeing how like fun I am and like good at my job and other things like that, it was only that was the one thing that was gonna make or break this. Was, yeah, the look works, whatever, but if you don't fit the clothes, sorry. It's like, I know you make more than a 2. You don't just sell 2s. You know, this is a Brandy Melville. Like, there's no way. Like, why don't you just pull a 4? Like, I just couldn't fathom that as like a reasonable 18-year-old. I just didn't understand why it worked like this. So yeah, it was tough in the beginning. I booked like one job. It was a little fit job, and it was for Vivienne Westwood at their store in LA. And it was basically just like a lookbook. So I just took pictures in all their outfits, some I didn't fit into, right? Because there's the sample size. And then, you know, that was that. So yeah, the sizing was scary. And in the next episode, we'll continue on and talk about what did it mean to go through that? Who are the scary agents? You know, who did I run into? And we'll talk about how and why I finally caught my stride. So thanks for listening. And Oscar says bye. And yeah, see you next time.